we're everybody. Some people have asked me how to set this up. They get confused, so we're going to do this in a video here. I'm not a professional. I do this for fun. So if you want scripted stuff, you're going to have to get somebody else to do it, or go look at somebody else's who will do it for you. This is going to be on the fly, and if I forget anything, post a question and I'll answer. First thing you want to do is you'll have to do is get vorpX. vorpX is easy to find. Just go to any Google, whatever you're using, type in vorpX.com, and the website will come up. This is exactly what you see. There's nothing different. How it works, you can read about it and you can purchase it. There is not a free trial. If you want to use it, you'll have to purchase it. I do believe it's $40 now for lifetime upgrades. It's been around for years now. It's gotten to be really, really good. There are free methods to run in your HMD AAA titles. They are a pain to set up and get running. Some of them work better than others. But for all around, using it for every game you have, vorpX is the way to go. And if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. But if you want to run it in HMD or any AAA title, vorpX is your best bet. It's the most supported and it's the most helpful. They have forums, the whole works. Okay, now you've downloaded, installed vorpX. You'll have three icons. You'll have Start vorpX, vorpX Desktop, which you won't use, and Configure vorpX, which you may use on the fly. The second thing you want to do is your Oculus Rift. It has a native resolution, of course. It is each having a resolution. Each eye has a resolution of 1080 by 1200. That is native to Oculus Rift. Now, being this is true, total is 2160 by 1200. To run vorpX in all my games, I have set my desktop to 2160 resolution. I've done this. I have NVIDIA card. AMD is a little different, but you'll want to make a custom resolution, 2160 by 1200. Just follow your graphics card instructions to how to set custom resolution. It will downscale it to, if you're 1080p, it doesn't make any difference. It just builds it up and then downscales it. But you want to make your resolution on your desktop for the best quality in your HMD 2160 by 1200. And if you say you can't run that, most monitors will run it in a custom resolution. It just downscales. And exactly what mine does. I'm on a 1080p monitor. So don't say you can't do it. Just give it a try. Put your desktop at 2160 by 1200 and run at that resolution. Okay, now that we've got our resolution set up on our monitor, we want to go to Star Citizen. We want to launch the game. We'll just go in here normally, nothing special here. There's going to be a couple things I have set up different right now, but that's only because I want to be able to use the mirrors once I go into Star Citizen. It has to be in Windows mode. I do not run any of my games I play in vorpX in window mode. I run them in full screen only. But we'll go to graphics. You'll want to set the in-game graphics to 2160 by 1200. You'll definitely, I imagine you'll want that you'll probably be at full screen, but you go ahead and turn full screen on. Doesn't matter. Now you see I'm running windowed, but like I say, for you guys, it will be no. Ignore my full screen windowed because I'm doing it because I'm trying to make a how-to video here and I need to be able to turn the mirror windows on. Okay, now that we've got our graphics in game set, you want to quit the game. We'll say yes, and we'll quit. Shut down your launcher. Now here we are. Now we want to start vorpX. Double click your vorpX, single click, however you got your desktop set. It'll load vorpX. Down here on the bottom right, you'll see it on the taskbar, vorpX control. If not, just hit your little up arrow. It'll come up. Hit configure vorpX, or you can hit it right from your desktop. It doesn't matter. They both do the same thing. We're going to bring vorpX up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Cloud Profiles here. We're going to type in Star Citizen. Whoops, got to learn how to spell first. And you see it right here. It's Star Citizen in brackets, vorpX. That's the newest one. It is 18.2 was what it was created with. You want to import that profile. After we import the profile, you want to hit apply. Once you hit apply, go back to general. These are the settings I use in vorpX. You want to turn everything on. You do not need to run it as administrator unless you're running Star Citizen administrator, and if you are, I have no idea why, because you don't have to. I set mine so vorpX will never change game settings. I have found that it will. Lots of settings, and I like all my games that I run through vorpX to have the same configuration. I have found it works better for me. You can agree to this or not agree to it. It's completely up to you, but I prefer that everything that I put on my headset, everything's the same. I don't want games having this kind of screen, that kind of screen, this kind of look. I want everything the same in every game, which is why I set my desktop to 2160 1200 and I turned this off. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's not consistent game to game because games are made different. Now you can turn this start page off that we saw. I usually have it off. Hints, if you're new to vorpX, you probably want to see the hints. It'll give you some tips and tricks. It'll hide some notifications, but obviously it doesn't have a whole lot. Once you've done all that, just hit apply and close. vorpX is now set up in its basic form to run Star Citizen when you start it. Make sure your Oculus Rift is on. Mine is. That would be the next step, is to turn your HMD on, whether it's a Vive. vorpX will even run Windows Mixed Reality. I do not know if it works with Star Citizen because I don't have one, no way of testing it. This does work in the Vive, so you're not forced to have an Oculus Rift. In fact, if you've got the new Vive Pro, you're going to get even better resolution in your HMD than I get in my Oculus Rift. So there's that. Okay, now that we've got everything set up to go, we're going to again start the launcher. It's going to log in. Once you're logged in, you hit launch a game. The first thing you'll notice when the game gets into its loading screen is vorpX is going to attach to Citizen EXE. It's exactly what it's supposed to do, and you should see the vorpX logo at the bottom of your screen, in the middle at the bottom, on all your pages. vorpX. We're loading. As you can see down here, we are now loaded in the game. Now right now your mouse, nothing is going to work. You can move around, you might get something to highlight it, but your mouse right now is in your HMD. So what you need to do is put your headset on. If you want to control your mouse, as soon as you put your headset on, the next thing you want to do is hit the Alt space bar key to center your head tracking. It will center the head tracking. Now looking in your HMD, you can see your mouse pointer everywhere you go. There you go. You'll notice the resolution's not quite, it's no longer what you had on your desktop, but you know what? You give up resolution to get the immersion. If you've got to have 4K, then using vorpX and HMD is not for you. It's just that simple. The resolution is not the same. Okay, now that we are in the game, I am going to turn on the mirrors, which right now you can't see, and I'm going to bring up the vorpX menu for everybody. Let's see, why do not I see the menu here? Okay, normal, auto. What the hell's the deal here? I got something. Let me check out. This is just for me. This is not for you. I need to bring up the mirrors. So don't think you need to. I'm going to turn off full screen here. You will not turn off full screen. I'm just trying to get the windows to come up. Okay, now we have direct mode mirror windows. Okay, as soon as I turn these on, you're going to see a dual screen come up. Now I will double check. I'm going to hit Host K and save here. Make sure the mirrors are up. They are. Okay, you're seeing what now? You're seeing what I'm seeing through my mirrors. Resolution is, once again, I'll go back up because it's on the screen. You're seeing it on the screen versus through my headset. So it's going to be a little different. Don't be shocked when the resolution's not as perfect as it is on your monitor. Now, to bring up your menu in vorpX, you hit the delete key, is the standard key. And we're going to go to the first page, which is main settings. There are 3 different play styles. You can play it in cinema mode, you can play it in full VR, and you can play it in immersive screen mode. I play it in immersive screen. I find it works best for me. Now, you'll set it up how you like it, so it's up to you to which mode you use. Cinema mode is probably the least demanding if you don't have higher CPU specs and video card specs. Full VR mode works fine in 3D, normal 3D reconstruction. It does not work good in geometry 3D. Okay, we got our immersive screen mode. Next thing you'll see screen offset distance. That will changing that brings your screen closer or farther away to your eyeballs. Set it to your preference, how much of the area around the screen you want to see. 3D reconstruction is the next one. I have it set at 3D normal now. Adaptive, I don't find any use for. Geometry is the best, but with patch 3.14 they broke it again for vorpX. It will just crash your game. It'll freeze. Hopefully it'll work again in 3.2. It worked just fine in all the other 3 points, in 3.0, 3.1, 3.13. It all works. Something they changed in 3.14 broke it. So do not use it because it's just frustrating. Try it again at 3.2. It may work again. Depends on what they made a change and if they'll change it back. 3D strength. Being we're running Z normal, I turn it all the way up. I have it to max at 300. You may find in geometry you will not need it anywhere near that high, so it makes a difference. Depth weighting near and far. I have near, have it set to near. In geometry, you'll set it farther back when you're using geometry or when you can use a geometry. I find that I try to set mine so my HUD doesn't get overlapped on all the structures in the game. Especially when you're in a cockpit of a fighter or something, you'll find that it's on top of this or below that. So I set my strength, I set my depth so I get the look I want. Focal distance is your offset for your eyepieces. I run mine in vorpX at 0.03. You may want it closer to that. You will have to stay near 0. Negative will not work, trust me. But anything over 5 probably ain't going to work either. 2 and 3 seem to be the sweet spot. Head tracking multiplier. You'll want to turn it all the way up to 1. To get the best head tracking. Okay, now once we go past this screen, we'll go to the next screen. Gamma brightness, self-explanatory. If this game is too dark in your HMD, turn up the brightness. If it doesn't have enough color, You can change the saturation. It may be too much. I find I do not have to change the sharpening. It's just fine. HUD scales I leave alone. I find that changing them around doesn't really do anything for you. You can move them around and you can really mess them up too. Okay, don't ignore the direct mode window one. You're not going to even see that when you're not running in Windows. It will not even be an option. You'll want to use your fluid sync, and your async renders have to be on unless you can get 90 frames per second in a game. You're not going to get that in Star Citizen, even in the PU, so don't turn them off. Let them run. That's ASW for your HMD, and believe me, it makes a big difference smoothing things out. GPU sync, just use safest. I have not found it makes any difference one way or the other. Edge peak stereo. What that means is it moves both your eyes in and out when you use the middle mouse button, which a lot of menus will be where you cannot see them because they're so far on the edge of the screen, and you hit your middle mouse button, it drops out it drops it out so you can see the whole screen, and your edge peak scale is how far it drops it out. It's personal preference. Head tracking you'll want on. Sensitivity. Now, it's a pain in the ass to get this set up in Star Citizen. Most games it's fairly easy. The cockpits and your ground-based on-foot stuff is all different. It's not the same. You will be playing with your mouse curves on the ground. You will be playing with them in the air. It can be a pain in the ass to get your head tracking set up. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can tell you about it. You just keep playing. If there's a particular problem you ask, I may be able to answer it. You do not need to invert anything. You'll want your head tracking roll on, so when you tilt left and right, and when you're in game, the screen will tilt with you. Oculus touch settings, do not turn them on. They're not good to play Star Citizen with. The touch controllers, just go right by it. Leave mouse acceleration open. You have your Alt override key, yes. Menu key override, yes, yes. vorpX gamepad buttons off. You can use them, but you need the buttons for other things if you run the 360 Xbox controller. Here's another thing. Xbox gamepads. If you do not override it, you will have a trouble with tracking when you move your head or you move your right stick trying to look around. It'll just go bonkers. You'll want to override it completely. Let vorpX control your controller. Now, since you'll probably need to adjust your curves or your sensitivities and stuff here in this menu. You do not have to change anything on your controls in the game, but you will probably want to change the sensitivities. Now, gamepad mapping. You'll want to change them to what you want the controller buttons to do, because it's overriding Star Citizen, and what you have set for your key bindings in game are not going to work. So what you do is you take your button, whatever it is, A, B, your sticks, all this stuff, you bind them to the key binding you want. It's that simple. Just like the F key, I have it on the B button, on the E button, A button, I have the E key. That's all you have to do. When you go to bind it, bind the key on your controller that you want as your key binding on your keyboard. That way it will just emulate whatever your key bindings are on your regular keyboard, because right now you can't use it, you can't see it, and you're just not gonna enjoy yourself. You got to keep taking your headset off to see your keyboard. That's also why I recommend you use voice attack when you're running in vorpX in your HMD, because all the buttons and commands you can do increases your immersion, because you don't have to take off your headset. And there's nothing worse than being in a dogfight or trying to land and all of a sudden you can't find the key on your keyboard. You got to take off your headset. 10 to 1, it's going to kill you. So you got to learn to use what works, and that's the controller works when you're on the ground, walking around, playing Star Marine. Dual joysticks, joystick and a HOTAS work great in combat. You can still use your mouse button, or you can still use your mouse, but I would recommend you turn mouse control off in flight, because whenever you hit your mouse or move your mouse, your ship's going to take off in another direction. Now, technically, you can set up head tracking to control your pitch and yaw in your ship. I have it turned off so it won't do that. I find it very annoying. When they get some things fixed, I'll probably try using it to run my gimbals. But the way things are worked right now in flight controls, I'm not even interested in working on it. So I don't. Go back to your gamepad. That's pretty. These are the hotkey menu. You can set up hotkeys. I find out I never use them. I never use the hotkeys. I want to get in the menu. It's easy to find a delete key, or set it up on your joystick. Set it up for one of the many buttons on your joystick to bring up the VR menu. And then we're back. And that's basically all you have to do. We are now good to go.